Step into the chilling world of crime and justice as we unravel the stories of killers who not only committed heinous acts, but showed absolutely no remorse when facing their victims' families in court.
And I'll tell you point blank, I have not 1 ounce of remorse for Treesan's death.
In this gripping exploration, we delve into the unsettling trials where the absence of remorse becomes a haunting presence, leaving scars that linger long after the gavel falls. Join us on a journey into the minds of those who crossed the line between humanity and darkness, leaving a trail of shattered lives in their wake. Brace yourself for a compelling examination of the killers who remained cold-hearted even in the face of unimaginable grief, as we question the boundaries of empathy and delve into the abyss of remorseless crime. This is Randall Moore. He faces 3 life sentences for crimes against his former wife, according to Reese and Lynch. Lynch had divorced her husband and obtained a protection order against him. This was followed by subsequent kidnappings and the murder of his estranged wife. Officer Todd Rowland rushed to the cries from the flat, where he was then shot and damaged. 303 Adams has been hit. The officer downed the suspect armed with 20 shelf devices, and no one came to the door as he would shoot again. Soon later, Moore had a phone call with a 911 operator. Listen as he discusses his motivations. "I didn't want to do any of it. All I wanted was my son, I tell you. I was just concerned with being my 7-month-old baby." Not long later, Moore surrendered, and for the officer Rowling, he received surgery for his hand. As the judgment is read out, Moore provides just a tiny nod, leading a jury to find the defendant guilty of first-degree murder. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of first-degree kidnapping, first-degree sexual abuse, and attempted murder at a later sentence. Lynch's mother speaks as a survivor impact statement. "Tristan Marie Lynch was cruel, terrible, and vile, and you are now dead, decaying, and disgusting to me. She loathed you, according to her journal. She despised you. Your loser, Moore, refused to apologize for his actions, claiming that he felt no remorse for what occurred. And I'll tell you right now, that I have no guilt for Tristan's death. Everything might have been avoided. All you had to do was allow me to see my child. Now you'll never see her again." But suddenly, the judge arrives. "If anyone didn't know what a jerk you were before you started talking, they do now. The court does not permit me to punish you further than I do now. If I could, I would have received 3 life sentences, plus 25 years for attempted murder." Keith Ferguson from Kalkaska, Michigan. He was charged with 12 felonies, including kidnapping and murder. Ferguson, 40, was in a divorce dispute with his wife, Tiffany Ferguson, when he began to allegedly only beat her before tragically shooting her in front of their 4 children. He then took the kids to Tiffany's parents' house, where he fatally murdered his father-in-law. After fleeing the scene, Ferguson invaded a nearby house, kidnapping the owner and barricading himself inside. Ferguson was apprehended after a 7-hour standoff, had already murdered many individuals, and had escaped in the state captives. Everyone was perplexed by Ferguson's demeanor and regret at his court appearance. "And I'd want you to take your place at the podium. Raise your hand if you want to help me." "Okay, we'll be right back." Tiffany's best friend offers a victim impact statement at Keith's sentencing, claiming she always suspected Keith would attack his wife one day. She was usually quick to respond. "He adores his children. He will not murder me. I love them so much that I killed their mother and grandfather." Ferguson said he never wanted to see or talk to his children again. As a result, the court reacted with the clinical definition of insanity, "But there's undoubtedly something fundamentally wrong with you." Ferguson was sentenced to life in prison without the chance of release. This is Jeremy Christian, who was detained in Portland, Oregon, for the murder of 2 men on a Max Light rail train. Christian stabbed and killed 53-year-old former Army officer Ricky John Best and 23-year-old Taliesin Chimeka in May 2017. Micah Fletcher, 21, was also stabbed, but he survived. What occurs next is the starting point for everything. Christian was caught on video yelling anti-Muslim and racial epithets at 2 black youths. Several people were irritated by his actions. They accosted him and separated him from the terrified teens who had retreated to the train's rear. Christian brandished a knife, threatened to stab, and finally stabbed the victims in an attempt to de-escalate the situation. But it does not stop there. Christian is fleeing the scene. Christian left the train at the next transfer center after 12 seconds of insanity. Several passengers followed him while dialing 911. When the cops arrived, he boasted of killing 2 people and was detained. But murdering 2 individuals in broad daylight is insufficient. What transpired in court stunned both the judge and the jury. He was charged with murder on 2 charges and attempted murder on 1 count. He not only showed no remorse for his acts, but he also threatened to kill one of the victim's family in court. One of the victims' families read the victim's impact statement during the trial. Christian's answer to the statements is as follows. Christian was ultimately condemned to 2 consecutive life sentences. Evidence of his criminal background was revealed throughout the trial. Christian seemed to have attacked a lady and screamed racial insults on another train the day before the Christian or Muslim bus driver killings on YouTube.
It's like we got a Christian or Muslim bus.
He defined himself as a white nationalist and a far-right fanatic. The judge added 25 years to his 2 life sentences for these additional offenses. I'll tell you right now, no matter how disrespectful Christian was, he wasn't as rude as Randall Moore. I feel no guilt for the treacherous death. This is Michael Swanson, who was 17 when he embarked on an hour-long killing rampage at 2 Iowa petrol stations. Where did you film? Okay, by the face to face. Swanson approached a petrol station in El Gato, Iowa, wearing a ski mask and armed with a revolver, demanding cash and cigarettes from Vicki Bowman Hall, 47. Swanson shot and murdered her, despite obeying the order without hesitation. Humboldt, Iowa, 1 hour later. Swanson committed the same crime in another petrol station, murdering Sheila Myers. When investigators recognized his car with both victims following his request, but were murdered nevertheless, he was apprehended 60 miles away from the incident, indicating that murder was Swanson's primary purpose. What was his reaction like when he fired the trigger? Some people say it feels firm or like a rush, or how would you feel if you pulled the trigger? Swanson was charged with first-degree murder on 2 charges and burglary on 2 counts. Swanson responded to all charges about his motivations by shooting the clerk inadvertently, deliberately, and with premeditation. I did this to kill her. Now comes a victim impact statement from one of the victim's daughters. Swanson is emotionless as he sits. How could you have done such a thing to my mother and family? I'm curious whether you're even sorry. Do you regret what you did? My mother was not only entirely innocent, but also defenseless when you walked in with that gun. You said you did it for smokes and money, so no one could identify you, but I believe you lied. You did it so that you might feel strong, as you subsequently stated.
I want to know if you're even sorry. Are you sorry for what you did? My mom was not only completely 100% innocent, but she was also a defenseless woman when you came in with that gun. You said you did it for cigarettes and money and so no one could identify you, but I think that's a lie. You did it, as you later said on, that it was so you could feel powerful. How could killing a defenseless woman in an outright execution be powerful or fair? My mom did nothing to you.
Swanson chuckled and grinned as he was sentenced. Murder with cold blood. A youthful man. You are hazardous. You're unpredictable. For the rest of your life, Chris. Swanson was sentenced to 2 life terms, and 4 years into his sentence, he cut the throat of another inmate.